Hey, what's up everyone? Goodness, you all love some plate carrier reviews, and good news, I got another one for you, and this one comes highly requested. The plate carrier we'll be taking a look at today will be the HRT Rac. So let's do it already and tear into another plate carrier, and we'll see how it stacks up. So as I like to start us out, I like to explain what the heck HRT is and what the heck is a rack. Well, HRT is a gear company that actually began as a company that did tactical training only. Back then they were called high-risk training, and they provided an enhanced level of professional tactical training to like military, law enforcement, and even to civilians. The company then transitioned into a gear company that we know today as HRT. The thing I find the most poignant is that the individuals who make this gear are actually trainers who are out in the field, and they're designing the gear based on their usage out in the field. So you're not going to see gear designed by an Instagram marketing department with only one use in mind and a plan to rip you off as much as possible. For those of you that remember, we actually did a review of multiple plate placards, and the HRT Maximus did extremely well in those tests, and is currently in my top 2 of favorite front plate placards. And I see way too many of these things. So I've already been pretty impressed by HRT. And it's apparent to me that this gear is designed with field and duty use in mind, with multiple smart usage for every piece. So then the Rac Plate Carrier we're reviewing today is one of the 2 plate carriers designed by HRT. For full transparency, we don't have any relationship with HRT, nor are we paid in any way by them, but they did provide us this plate carrier for review. Those guys seem really nice, and I wish them the best through this experience. Is this when we show a bridge on fire with spirit systems below it? Along with the HRT Rac, I'll show off a few other pieces that make this setup complete, such as the HRT Sporran Dangler, which is fantastic. It even has all sorts of internal organizations. sorry, I'm gonna stay focused. I'll show you that soon, along with the Hydromax rear bag. Now, I'm a bit vocal on my thoughts on rear packs and water, but we can evaluate it together and see if the Hydromax does things a little bit better. I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. But tell you what, let's answer that first troubling question. Can I buy it, and what all do I need? Well, first off, the HRT Rac is in stock and doesn't use stupid Instagram hype models to try to sell their product. Yeah, nuts, I know. To buy a carrier from HRT, you choose which carrier you'd like first. We chose the HRT Rac in our case, and then you select a color and your sizing. The HRT Rac does also include a single strap cummerbund, but I highly recommend getting a separate cummerbund, as this strap is just a strap. The quick release cummerbund is the one I really recommend for any of the HRT setups. Those cummerbunds are sold out often, so for our setup, we currently have the 2-band molle. I didn't want to get one of those and then take away from some customer who's been waiting like ages for one of the QD cummerbunds. So I'll set it up like a QD cummerbund using some molle Cobra buckles from Blaze Defense Systems. Then you can see how the QD performs, or if you want to add the quick disconnect feature to the 2-band cummerbund. But tell you what, let's get started, and we'll start by looking over the front and the rear plate bag, the side cummerbund and shoulder straps, and then we'll go into a series of plate carrier tests. And then finally we'll do our pros, cons, and if I recommend it, and then we'll show where it sits on our plate carrier ranking chart. For those that want to see where our chart is currently at, here is our current ranking with the Olight K19 rocking the top spot, and the budget LA Police Scare Atlas in second. It's hard to beat that little monster at 80 bucks. I don't care what you say. But tell you what, let's get started on the HRT Rac and take a look at that front plate bag. Starting with the top of the HRT Rac front bag, we see this small padded portion on the top of the carrier. Now, this part, I haven't totally sorted out exactly what this does, so feel free to correct me down in the comments, but I assume this is just a pad to keep your chin from slamming into your plates if you're like jumping and diving around. It certainly seems like someone hit their face when training, and this was a lesson learned. Next, we see the shoulder straps are integrated into the rear of the front plate bag, and we'll get to that. On the top of the front bag, we see some smart stuff here with 2 molle loopback sections. And as I always tell you, this gives the option to connect up your personal devices if you want to use like ATAC or CivTac and all that fun jazz. Or you can just add in cool patches on there too. I really like these side straps too because it allows you to connect in your clips at whatever height you want, or use these cool IWT clips to connect in and sit nice and flat. Yes, you heathens, links are in the description. The way it's put together also allows for a Haley Hitchhike if you find you don't like the way the rear pack works. Also on the side here we see some cable management on the side of the carrier. You may not realize how huge it is to see all these seemingly innocuous items all in one area. But looking at this carrier, it's instantly telling me that this carrier has been used out in the field. It's been tested and improved based on what they found out in the field. This thing's really hitting all my marks so far. Moving down the front of the carrier, we see 2 large panels used to connect in the cummerbund and front plate placard. Now, it's becoming more of a legacy item, but be aware that you can't connect in your older style molle pouches like this STAC 3 mag pouch. Now, I like placards, so it's not really a big deal to me, but that may be different based on your needs. Flipping the carrier over, we see some Velcro here at the top. Does this connect into the strap? Okay, nope. Okay, so this portion here is to move the shoulder QD from one shoulder to the other depending on how you want it. Now, I wish that shoulder strap did actually connect into the rear of the front plate bag, and I think it would be a pretty easy change to make, and then it would add some of the structural rigidity like we saw in the Olight K19. Agilite. Plus, then I would have a QD on both sides. Anyway, gotta stay focused. The rear of the front bag also includes 2 Velcro back sections to add in plate carrier pads. And those are super comfy, like the pig pontoons if you want to use them, but I'll say you don't really need them. And that's because the HRT rack also uses foam padding on either side that is integrated into the plate carrier. I know what you're gonna say, but Walsh, you didn't like these on the Grey Ghost SMC. And true, but these have a trick. You can open the bottom and actually remove the pad if you find it uncomfortable or want to make changes to it. So then you could remove the foam and just run like pig pontoons, or you could actually like cut it and mold it in case it jabs into your chesticles. The bottom of the plate bag uses a little pull tab, and the flap connects on the inside of the plate carrier to allow for some pretty large variation in plate sizes. Now, I'm going to warn you, this Velcro holds super well, and that little tiny pull tab does not help you very much at all. But just know those plates are held in there super duper tight. All right, let's go look at the rear bag. Looking at the top of the HRT rear bag, we immediately see that it comes with an included drag handle. Now, we all know how much fun it is to pay extra on other carriers for required equipment, so big thanks to HRT for including this. Next, we see the shoulder straps are sewn into the rear plate bag, much like all of the other carriers we've seen. And moving down, oh dear God, I was hoping not to see this. We have no molle on the back, these 5 straps, and is this? Yes, 4 zippers on the rear panel, none of which are done in a way to tie into standard issued packs. As a consumer, it's so frustrating to see yet another proprietary back panel system. This is what, the 3rd proprietary system that we've seen in 5 carrier reviews. Maybe they have some really smart use for all this. They do offer a rear molle section that ties into the whole system, but it does cost another $60. But I think I get what they're trying to do here. By having the top and bottom zippers different, you could theoretically connect in different pouches on the top and on the bottom. So you could get this super versatile setup where you could do like a pouch on the top and some GP pouches on the bottom, or even flip it all around and do it reversed, or just flip out the top panel for a Maximus placard zip-on. So I get it, and tell you what, it's not that badly priced, but by having this design, It makes it so I can't use my Eagle Ergo without buying the molle backing. And overall, all the issued packs that I have won't really work, so I don't have a whole lot that I can really actually use and connect into this. And kind of removes my option to mix and match gear in interesting ways to find new and better usage. And while what HRT offers me looks pretty awesome, I'm just kind of stuck with it, and that's kind of a bummer. The Hydromax provided by HRT also connects in, and you can see how it uses the buckles, hook and loop, and zippers to provide a water and rear pack solution in one, so there are certainly a lot of options. Or as I've mentioned, you could just run a ruck over it. Anyway, what else is on this rear pack? Okay, at the bottom we see what looks like our Cummerbund attachment area. It's held in place by this side strip of hook and loop that secures the tab down. Open this up and we will. Okay, there is a whole lot going on in here. We'll look at the Cummerbund in a second, but the rear of the carrier has channels for what looks like a ton of different style Cummerbunds. So while this looks a little bit crazy, it's actually pretty smart. These attachment methods allow for multiple different types of Cummerbunds, so you can do the hook and loop Cummerbunds or structural Cummerbunds like the Cry style, and you'd insert it into these 3 sections. And the different slots allow for a ton of options for different Cummerbunds here. So while the HRT QD Cummerbund is sold out, it seems kind of like a moot point as you can pretty much connect up anything into here. Even this badass elastic molle Cummerbund kit from Arbor Arms. Whoa, shh, not yet. Looking at the back of the rear bag, we see the same design as the front with the 2 loop sections to connect in the chest pads, and the rear plate bag offers the same 2 foam pads that are removable at the bottom of the carrier. The rear bag opens and closes identically to the front to accommodate different size plates. Seriously, it is no joke how strong it holds itself closed. Anyway, what are we looking at next? Let's do the shoulder straps. Looking at the shoulder straps, we see the straps are connected into the rear and then connected onto the front via the QD or the buckle for the shoulder strap. This is a tad annoying as you only have the buckle on one side. Now, you do have the option to change the buckle from either side, but I did constantly run into a problem with the buckle. Those of you with OCD may want to look away. And that's because the buckle often sits at a different height than the opposing side. And the other shoulder strap additionally sits a little bit different, resulting in 2 sides looking a little bit disconnected. Just add a second buckle to the kit, and then people can add or remove it as they see fit. I'll be honest, it would make the whole kit and carrier more complete and definitely more symmetrical. Plus, you gotta play all sorts of games with the sizing and the adjustment to get it sitting right, as you can't just mirror the opposing side. The shoulder strap covers do have some light padding and have 2 cable management loops on either side. Also included on the rear of the strap is another small band to keep an antenna in place or further aid in the routing of cables. This thing definitely has the cable routing business down pat. Now, just add a quick slit into the front plate bag so I can store all my excess cables in there. All right, last bit, let's take a look at the Cummerbund. As I said, the included Cummerbund is a strap. That's it, and it works, but it's no frills, and I recommend a different style. This is the 2 molle strap style, but as we stated earlier, the QD style is the preferred one to purchase. If you can't get a hold of that style, you can do what I did here with the Blaze Defense QD buckles connected into the 2-strap molle band. So then we added QDs into the front, but still used that legacy molle style Cummerbund. The only bad part is you gotta kinda fold part of the Cummerbund back and behind you, but it's really not that big of a deal though. The 2-band or QD style offer the same 2 bands of molle along the entire section, so you can connect in external mag pouches like this 10-speed mag pouch. Now, it also has slits on the side for some soft armor, but I find that pretty limiting and the area that it protects is pretty small. Moving back to the rear, we can see how to adjust the Cummerbund via the included bungee. Now, this isn't awesome or fun to adjust in this method, but you kind of loosen it up and then you put it around you and you carefully take it off and then tie it all down, or you find a friend that's nice enough to tie it up while you have it all sized around you. Changing the cummerbund size rapidly would be pretty difficult if you were like in a jacket in the morning and then ditched it. You're just definitely not going to be adjusting this cummerbund super quickly. All right, so let's do some tests and let's see how this thing does. The first one is going to be that shoulder strap and cummerbund adjustment. The shoulder adjustment is accomplished fairly easily. You remove the shoulder strap cover and then you can lift off the shoulder strap in order to adjust and reconnect. But as I stated earlier, having one buckle and then one strap means I have to constantly adjust it and then I have to look at it and then go adjust it again. So it's not as simple as you would think. And then, the cummerbund adjustment. Now, the elastic bungee is an industry standard, but it is absolutely my least favorite connection method. It is a pain to adjust or make small changes, and it has a ton of bungee cord all over the place. Now, this carrier does allow for a ton of different cummerbunds, so this is kind of a me problem. Anyway, let's move on to our next test, and that's the size adjustment range. I had no issues with sizing the carrier to my frame, and the carrier fit extremely comfortably and securely. Now, the cummerbund allows me to go larger, but not that much smaller than me. With the way that the two ends tie into one another, this would not adjust small enough to fit a woman's frame unless I did some really wonky stuff or just replaced the cummerbund with the Arbor arms one. Now be aware that this cummerbund comes in one size, so making it super large or super small will definitely be a challenge. I was able to adjust the placement of the buckles I put on in order to better fit my wife's more petite frame, but the shoulder strap buckle was almost completely occluded. Now this shows that the carrier doesn't have like a super wide adjustment range outside of my size. Alright, so let's see what size plates fit inside this carrier. Due to the gracious pocket size and open edges that don't pinch the plates, the HRT rack allows for our LA Police Gear Level 4 plates to fit in easily. With the same plate bag on the rear, we had no problems with the wider LA Police Gear plates or any of the other 10x12 plates we had sitting around. So if you're thinking about some of those thicker RMA plates, the HRT rack will work out just fine. Okay, so next test, let's look at all the available colors. You can pick up the HRT rack in black, Ranger green, Coyote brown, multicam, multicam black, multicam arid, and woodland M81. That's sweet, sweet multicam black. God, it always looks good. Okay, moving on, let's look at the expansion test. Looking at the HRT rack on the front plate, we see a mixed bag in the expansion department. I like how it comes with a placard set up standard, but with no legacy molle support. You may not like that. The cable management all over the carrier is also a great addition and makes this ideal as my primary carrier when using comms or higher tech equipment. Looking at the rear, we again see a mixed bag in terms of expansion. Yes, it offers a ton of expansion options, but those options are limited to HRT rear bag items. And while I would normally be upset, they do offer items to fit most mission sets, and they don't cost like $250 each. But I like to use other gear and like integrate it all in. I mean, I like it, but I'm certainly not like freaking out in joy over the expansion area. All right, let's move on to our next test, and that's the donning and doffing test. Donning is extremely easy as we have our Cobra buckle set up connecting into the molle straps. The top of the carrier only having one buckle is a bit different, and I would have liked to see one on both sides. Perhaps it helps more with the rifle cheek weld. In an emergency, the opposing strap could be easily cut to escape the carrier. Removing the carrier is also easy as we disconnect our QD buckles or tubes and easily remove the carrier. Again, I recommend you use the tubes or change your 2-band molle to use those quick release Cobra buckles. And that's because 1, the molle Velcro is annoying, and 2, having those quick release buckles could actually save your life. Alright, moving on to the next test is the rifle cheek weld test. Testing the rifle cheek weld, I found the straps for the HRT rack were right in my usual position. But with just a small shift inward, I was able to hook the stock into the plate carrier easily for a very comfortable and stable platform. Now, few people talk about this, but the more inline you can be, the more stable you can be. And you'll see this a lot in precision shooting, where you want to make sure to line the rifle up with your eye, and not trying to bring your head over and wondering why your ear probe's too big. The shoulder straps themselves do not do well to shoulder the rifle against on either the buckle or the non-buckle side, which lends me further to just suggest you add a QD buckle to either side. Okay, now we have our last test, and that is the prone comfort test. Diving down on the HRT rack will absolutely not give you the most comfortable experience. The 2 padded channels take all of your weight and place it along those 2 strips, which causes some serious pressure points. You will not want to be laying prone in this position for long, and will likely require multiple adjustments to try to remain comfortable. Overall, I didn't find the HRT rack to be extremely comfortable during our testing or working out with it. It seemed like I could feel every single pound that I added to the carrier. So anyway though, that's the end of our test. Let's move on to our pros, cons, and if I recommend it. For the first pro, it's the channels that run on the front and rear of the carrier. These 2 channels allow for moisture wicking and keep the carrier off of you. Unlike padding on other carriers, these keep your body separated from the carrier to allow it to breathe and keep air flowing and keep you cool. They do give some damage to my chest in the prone position though, so take note of that. Alright, so the second pro is the foresight they had on the cable management system. On this entire carrier, you will see cable management all over the entire thing, hidden away neatly and smartly. This carrier is designed to be used for duty, and you can tell that the designer knew where and how to place the cable management. You'll have no issue here routing complicated radios or any of your push-to-talks. As I said earlier though, I do wish there was a slit to throw in all the extra cords into the front plate bag. And then for my last pro, dang, this thing just feels like a weapon system. When this carrier is fully assembled with the entire HRT family, this thing feels like it hugs you and complements whatever you're doing instead of feeling like it's just adding a bulky extra layer. I don't feel like this carrier is dragging me down or limiting my movement, and instead feels like a part of me as it moves cleanly with me as I move and shift, and supports my weapon system and integrates my comms in smart ways. You just feel like a badass in this thing. Alright though, you know for every pro there has to be a con, and for my first con, you know it was coming. God, that single shoulder strap. The single shoulder buckle makes it so you can only really egress from one side. The opposing side can easily be cut, but the added shoulder buckle also makes lining up the 2 sides evenly a bit of a chore. As shouldering over the strap doesn't really work well, adding the QD on the other side would improve the carrier overall. Okay, so for my next con, and I think most of you saw this one coming, the proprietary back system and the 4 zippers. The proprietary back panel system is a particular pet peeve of mine, and it's frustrating to see every designer make their own carrier-specific back panel system. I have a lot of rear packs and panels and all these other doodads, and it's really frustrating that you can only really use them on like 1 or 2 carriers, and I have like a whole ton of them. They just don't integrate at all. The HRT Rac's 4 zippers are particularly challenging. They are not only a pain in the ass, but they're a pain in the ass 4 times. You have to pull down the item as you're zippering it to try to engage, or it just makes a whole mess. So while the pouches make for some cool setups, the entire system just isn't the best. So then, do I recommend this plate carrier? And I do. The HRT rack is a great carrier that can really hold its own in a ton of different scenarios. You just need to take a close look at your mission set and make sure the rack has the systems required to meet those needs. And also know that the size adjustment could be an issue for some smaller or larger frames. The HRT rack really shines as a team-based plate carrier though. That's what this thing is designed to do. Alright though, let's take a look at our plate carrier ranking chart and let's see how the HRT rack measured up. Seeing our rankings, I placed the HRT rack in 4th. I found the overall comfort and adjustment of the Agilite K19, placed it above the rack, and the price for the feature set of the LA Police Gear Atlas gave it the edge. And the ability of the Grey Ghost Gear SMC to interface into issued gear, and both placards and legacy molle, give it just the slightest boost over the HRT rack. Now, I do want to say to you that I'm really excited to show you the HRT rack all geared out, as the HRT Maximus placard, Sporran Dangler pouch, and Hydromax rear pack start to add some small options all over the place that take this carrier to another level above its peers. So stay tuned as we look more into the Sporran Dangler and the Hydromax rear pack as I show you how I have this entire carrier all loaded out. It's absolutely its own weapon system. So hopefully this review of the HRT rack was helpful in your purchasing decisions. I do want to say thanks to all of our Patreon supporters. You're the ones that make all this possible and we get to get all this cool gear and do all this neat stuff. So if you're not a Patreon supporter, please consider being one as we do some cool giveaways every month. And also thanks to all of you that like, comment, and subscribe. Comment down below what you think about the HRT rack and where it should have lined up in my ranking chart. All right, everyone, Walsh out. So be aware, this cummerbund comes in ones. Does it come in one side? Do I look ridiculous? I feel like I look ridiculous.